excited to have Eric Saraniecki on the program today. He is co-founder and head of network strategy at Digital Asset, the New York-based blockchain service company, founded back in 2014, and the company behind the Canton Network. They're also backed by some relatively well-known names like ABN AMRO, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Santander. Eric, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Super. So, I mean, it's no big secret that last year, just about a year ago, ETFs approved in the States. This was a really, really big step forward for the market. Some people at the same time say, oh, blockchain, decentralization, crypto, now it's wrapped in this financial product. It's such a shame, right? What's kind of your high-level thought about the financialization of crypto with that?
I think you ask a great question because people think, oh, ETF means now we have greater adoption. But someone will never touch the ecosystem if they just buy the ETF. But I don't take a negative position on that at all, because having economic exposure to these ecosystems is a great way to start your journey in learning and figuring out where you might participate, or what pockets are taking place, or what's driving the community and the utility in these different ecosystems. It generally starts with people saying, well, what's in it for me, and having some economic exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So making it significantly easier to participate in the space, I think is a great stepping stone. It just makes that first step a lot easier. But I would encourage anyone that would ever think about having economic exposure to any of these ecosystems to also take the next step. Don't stop at just the ETF. Because there's just so much more to learn. And I think that it also is one of those rare opportunities where it is almost a self-fulfilling prophecy if you start to participate, that you'll help appreciate the utility of the ecosystem, which should translate to a price appreciation as well. It's not every day that you can have a financial stake in something, and your activity and adoption of it would help drive its greater increase in value. So I think it's a wonderful place to start, but please don't stop there, would be the way I would say it.
And thinking about, where it's going forward and the next step after the first step, tokenization is a big potential for blockchain things. I'm sure you've been working on this. Some people critically say that tokenization hasn't achieved its full potential yet. Other people point out that, well, we have stablecoins. This is a perfect use case for this. Now stablecoins are coming up all over the place, many different things. What do you think of this kind of Cambrian explosion of stablecoins, and is it sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the world fully appreciates how incredible a stablecoin is, because it's just so simple but so powerful. With the click of a button, I can send money to anybody on earth. I don't think people really appreciate that fully, like the implications of that, what that means for even your basic banking relationships, what it means to hold money, use money, spend money. And so I think we've really only scratched the surface on what's possible with stablecoins. And really, the market exploded with just enjoying the utility. Right? If you look at the people that are using it, they're high velocity transactions, moving money multiple times a day, overnights, weekends, around the globe, and people are really benefiting from that utility, and that's driven that adoption. I think the next wave really is going to come in figuring out how to use it more in the wholesale ecosystem. But there are some blockers to that happening right out the bat.
And on that, blockers, maybe regulation, maybe institutions, maybe integrating into other systems. Is there a chance or a danger that there's some backlash and things get pushed aside from traditional finance, or is it already, the cat's out of the...
I think the cat's out of the bag, because again, you just can't deny the utility of these. So I find it odd that someone would regulate away something that has such demonstrable value to people. I don't expect that. But I think the big barriers to the next wave of adoption are just, one, in the United States, large financial institutions don't get to treat stablecoins like cash on their balance sheet. So looks like cash, spends like cash, moves better than cash, but is a derivative on my balance sheet is a pretty toxic position for large institutional adoption. So that's a big item. I hope to see under the new administration that get resolved sooner rather than later. But even before that happens, I'd say that there's also a really big blocker just in terms of privacy, especially in the wholesale market. Imagine you are a vendor and you have multiple customers and everyone's paying you in stablecoins. Well, now every customer can see what you've charged other customers. Or imagine you're a publicly traded company and your revenues are coming in stablecoins. People can, way ahead of your quarterly announcements, start to trade your stock in different ways. Some of those might be good or bad, I'm not sure, but it's definitely something we've not grappled with in the past. And commerce is a deeply private sort of endeavor. So to have all of the payments for an organization to be part of a permanent public bulletin board, I think is a major threshold issue for a number of parties. And I think getting the privacy element right of spending money is the thing that'll unlock maybe 5, 10, even 20x sort of value in these ecosystems, because it'll mean that anybody can benefit from that very clear utility that everybody else has been able to take advantage of so far.
And then when that utility gets even more widespread and some of those things that you talked about are fixed, then we could look for even more tokenized things on the back of that, right?
I think the reason, there's a few reasons that the tokenized real world asset stuff has been a little bit slower than the stablecoin. I mean, a payment can be very one-sided, like here's $20, and I could just give it to you for whatever reason, which might not be relevant to what's going on. But then when you're talking about something like a bond or a treasury or a private placement, there's just so much more to it. It's a much more robust asset. And so you need more participants there too. Or if you're talking about something like a tokenized treasury, well, what's the incremental utility of a treasury on a blockchain? It's the ability to move it like a stablecoin. Well, so then I need people that are willing to accept it and use it and participate in that velocity. So it's more of a network and ecosystem building process on the real world assets than it is just, hey, just tokenize something, right? It's like, well, okay, it's tokenized, what can I do with it now? And that's why your first question, I think the more impactful thing that happened in 2024 are like BlackRock's effort to bring BUIDL, Benji with Franklin Templeton. But in particular, I really like what Hashnote did with USYC. They've really thought about, how do I change what a money market fund is in minimal ways to really take advantage of this new velocity of this ecosystem. And you've seen the proliferation of USYC in the past few months. I think they're the largest money market fund by holdings at this point on chain. So the people that really adopt, not just now I have a digital asset, but for a purpose, and they think about that in their design, we're going to see a lot more of that in the coming couple of years, I think.
Interesting. And now looking to the future, 2025, what is particularly of interest to you also at digital asset? Is there something that you think is going to really take a step forward in the next few months?
Yeah, I'm really sick of this false dichotomy of like TradFi versus crypto native. Like we've always put everybody in one of those two buckets. And what we've been working on for 10 years, and I think that all of the market conditions and the moons have aligned to allow us to really be at the forefront of knocking that wall down. We were just talking about stablecoins and money market funds. What's underneath that? Capital markets. Those are some of the biggest repo market players or US Treasury holders in the world, and they're doing all of that on traditional rails. So you have this new asset that's hyper efficient and high velocity in this side, but then under the hood, how that gets made is still at the pace of our traditional rails. And with all the different use cases and privacy capabilities at Canton that we already have in capital markets, we're going to bring those into the crypto native side. We're going to start to be able to automatically create and redeem stablecoins for tokenized treasuries. We're going to be able to manage all of the repo workflows for the money market funds to automatically create all those processes on the back end. Then we'll have these great forms of collateral. We'll use them in automating variation margin and all of these different motions of cash and collateral across the network, and make sure that it's always done in a private way. So it's really safe, and it's something that people feel comfortable adopting for their sensitive workflows. So I'm just excited to knock that wall down.
Okay, very cool. And you have some announcement that just came out, I think that's
right. So
cool.
on the collateral example that I just gave, we're working with pretty much anybody in the world that would accept these tokenized treasuries or money market funds and stable coins as part of their collateral workflows. And a few of the large market makers, led by QCP here at the beginning, have decided that they want to automate the way that they interact with their counterparties in over-the-counter derivatives transactions. So we'll be working to on-chain manage all the IM and VM flows that are associated with those transactions, reducing the risk for all the participants involved, and just taking advantage of that added utility of having assets on chain.
Super cool. Looking forward to see how that plays out, and thanks very much for joining the program today. Eric, all the best.